if you want to become something, try being what you want to become every day, and over time you'll become that thing.
On this episode of the Matthew Bird Podcast.
That's the foundation, I think, for building someone who becomes a builder, an entrepreneur.
CEO and president at Ahlquist.
Doctor of Medicine.
Fellow of the American College of Emergency Physicians.
Chair Summit, Hyperbarics and Wellness.
Founder of the Inspire Excellence and Teens Two Trades nonprofits.
Co-chair of Keep Idaho Moving.
Tommy Ahlquist.
Tommy Ahlquist.
Interesting start. I was an ER doctor for 18 years, saw a lot of patients and loved medicine. Consider myself kind of a serial entrepreneur. I had a tech company for 17 years, one of the major commercial development companies here in Idaho. I'll have a bunch of other small businesses now that I do, but I love business.
And why not also run for governor?
It was a tremendous experience.
You can build a voice that makes an impact, whether in a local community or a global community, with efforts regardless of an official title or position.
We live in the greatest country in the history of the planet Earth. The idea that we're free and that if we work hard and we're smart and we marshal all of our energies and resources towards a vision and dream that can come true, that is so unique to America. I believe the heritage of Idaho is people that just know how to work and how to get things done, how to take care of each other, be kind, and they really care about community. I love that, and we don't want to lose that.
Hey guys, before we listen to the full episode, we wanted to ask, if you're liking this content, would you please subscribe to the channel and like the video? It really helps me and our team grow this podcast and bring in more awesome guests to the channel. Thank you, and back to the episode. Wow, we're good. All right. Mr. Tommy, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Well, you warned me when I had you on mine that we would do this, so I owe you. It was
Here we
great.
are.
Thank you for coming on mine, and thanks for all you do. It's great.
Thank you.
It's great knowing all the wonderful things you're doing, and I've already sent a few people your way.
Yes.
Do you know this guy's right here? It's great.
Well, it's fun, it was fun coming on yours as a podcaster, coming on another podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we get to return the favor, so you know a little bit of what to expect. But I love podcasts because, like we talked about, we're doing cool things here in the Valley nobody knows about. You're doing plenty of things, and you're well known locally. But podcasting is fun because you get to unpack stories and talk about things that are happening. That it's the modern news, right? It's like a lot of people learn through content and through building a following and a community. So I love it.
It's interesting how it's changed over the years, right? So I think it's been, we're going on 7 years for ours, and
awesome.
When we started, it was just to tell stories. Like I had just got through running for governor, and I'm like, I'm going to do a podcast and just go interview a lot of the people that I met, right? These just average, normal, hardworking Idahoans that needed their story told. So a lot of what we did initially was just go and find them and tell the stories, and then if it's not interesting to you, it's not interesting to someone listening. So. We've had some hit and misses over the years, but and it's morphed a few different times. But I just enjoy it.
Yep.
I tell everyone every year I got plenty going on, and so I like. Do I really want to do this again this year? But it's really enjoyable because you meet incredible people. Yeah. And that's what I think. The secret to business is relationships. It really is. Period. Yeah. And so, if that circle can widen and you can really genuinely meet somebody, hear their story, learn something, actually listen and learn something, then that's valuable. So I get people all the time that I don't know that listen and go, oh my gosh, I just heard you just did an episode with so-and-so. It was so wonderful. So I really enjoy it. But
good.
Yeah.
Well, you already hit on a few notes that I plan to talk about. Yeah. You do a lot in business. You have quite an interesting background. As you already mentioned, you even ran for governor. I want to talk about those, but I also like going all the way back in people's story. Before we do that, could you set the stage for those who maybe in our community or our following don't know you? Give us the little elevator pitch of what you do now, and then we'll go backwards.
Yeah, so now I probably consider myself kind of a serial entrepreneur. I still have several businesses that I run day to day, the largest of which is a development company, commercial development company here. We've been doing it for over 20 years. Kind of started as a side business and rapidly became one of the major commercial development companies here in Idaho and in the region. So I do that every day. We have 54 employees, an unbelievable team. Right now we have about 22 projects around the state and the region. And that's what I do with most of my time is spend it on that. But interesting start. I was an ER doctor for 18 years. Saw a lot of patients and loved medicine. But have had other companies.
Yeah.
I had a tech company for 17 years, back before anyone knew what a tech company was.
Yep.
And sold that in 2017. And then still have a bunch of other small businesses now that I do. But I love business. I love ideas. Just, we started 2 new this year. And, every time I try not to do it, actually, but I end up doing it anyway. But that's what I do now.
Very cool.
And I think that's how we met.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's great. And I look forward to talking more about the current and even some of the future stuff. Now I want to go all the way back.
Yeah.
I want to go all the way back. So you grew up in Utah, is that correct?
Yeah. So the quick version, both my family heritage is in mining, copper mining, like true blue collar. My father, both my grandfathers, my great-grandfathers all worked at the Kennecott copper mines, lived in corporate housing in Magna, Utah. So very, very hardworking. People didn't go to college. That's what you did. But I'll tell you, tremendous examples of hard workers.
Oh, I bet.
And my dad is kind of that example of just a guy that just grinds. Still works for me, with me now.
Oh, cool.
He's almost 80, and no one outworks the guy.
Yep.
So that's the heritage. Just fond memories. Incredible. Like, grew up on a farm by my grandpas. They were very influential in my life, and that's where it all started for me.
So you were working on the farm growing up?
Oh yeah. I mean, you think of childhood then. I mean, you think of, I say this all the time now because I have grandkids.
Yep.
They're currently living with me for 2 months while their house is being finished.
Oh, cool.
So I have a 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and 18-month-old.
Oh yeah.
And times are so different now, Matthew, that I think of the real impactful things on me in my childhood. I'm as I get older, and this happens when you get as old as I am, you start being really reflective on how you became who you are, who was influential on how you made it to who you are, and what were the moments that really impacted you. Yeah. And I'm actually very worried with my grandkids that unless I almost am very intentional about creating those moments, that I'm going to let that time go by. Yeah. Because if you don't, we live in a different world now. It's just the busyness of life, right? It's we don't intend to create this, but for me, I think of this is a cliche that I use all the time, but everything I ever learned, I learned under a weeping willow tree. My grandpa that lived right next to me was the man. And anyone who knew him as the guy they went to for advice. And he would sit on an old lawn chair under a weeping willow tree and read Louis L'Amour books. And as a child, I remember it vividly, laying there by him and talking about life and God and the outdoors and America and values. And it was so impactful. So I in my own life now, I'm like, what are my weeping willow moments with my grandkids? And it's not in my house. It's not watching, electronics. Yep. It's getting them out under stars in darkness, like laying on warm rocks somewhere, looking up at the sky and talking about big things. So that's what made me, is that I had a lot of those experiences. Yeah. For whatever reason, we were outside a lot. We were in nature a lot. We talked about things that mattered. We worked together. And I look back at those days very fondly, because I think it made me who I am. That's
why I love hearing all the way back to those stories. Yeah. A lot of people, a lot of podcasts, they're very topical focused. And I love the stories of going all the way back in journeys, because you unpack and you hear things that I would have, never known to ask or, but you're right. I think, and I have young children now, and I'm raising them in the current environment of society. It is very different, I'm not that old, but even when I was younger, around my grandparents and going out to Missouri and, being unplugged from what today looks like with what has grown from social media and the digital age. And, we even talked about it a little bit before of AI and, where is the future 10 and 20 years going versus what was it like even just 20 years ago or 30 years ago? Well,
and then again, the example I use, like I think about with my own children, There was a time for us where we spent a lot of time in Moab, Utah, and I would intentionally, I know this might sound crazy, but I have 4 kids. We'd go down 2 or 3 times a year, but I would time our trips when there was no moon. And then have you ever been to Moab?
No, I've seen lots of pictures. I need to.
It's unbelievable. But there's one of the Jeep trails is called Hell's Revenge. So you take your Jeep out, and if you go when there's literally no moon at all, and you go out, and there are these big rock domes. Usually in the summer, it's 100 degrees out, and you get out of your Jeep out in the middle of Hell's Revenge, and you lay on these rocks, and you look up at the universe, and you sit there with your kids. I'm getting chills just thinking of it, and you say to them, don't tell them, but what do you think of this, and what are you feeling right now? How does this make you feel? I don't know how that happens without that experience. It's just different to talk about what your place is in the universe, and you know, do you believe in God, and how did this all happen? And it's just different. It hits different. And if you do those over and over again, then your kids go, I remember laying on those rocks. I remember talking to you about God. And that just hits different than like, I don't know how you do it without that. Yeah. So, you know, you think of those camping trips and the Seven Devils up here and going out in the Owyhees and, you know, those experiences so it's not manufacturing them, but it's creating time so that they happen. And if you do it, it just hits different, especially today where we're so in tune with electronics and it's just different.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like I even see a little bit of maybe a movement of young people realizing that, even though it's so deep with technology, I at the same time, and we experience it as a young family with kids too, of like, you know, yes, we operate on iPhones, but now even my wife, you know, looking into like, are there phones that are not smartphones anymore? Like, can we go backwards to things that are less addictive and less on, you know, just on the go and so busy? I think there's this little bit of realization with people today that, and you see a lot. You see articles of where, you know, it's not even funny, but everybody on a train is staring at a device, right? People don't even communicate, you know, anymore. And then they get home and people are just on screens. And I think there's a realization that it's a problem, and there's a lot of good that comes from the technology, but at the same time, it is causing a lot of negative effects on people, on society in whole. And I think there's nothing that beats, like you're talking about, the experiences of being together in person, doing unique things, being in unique places. And I think that's already a great, you know, takeaway from conversation, and we've barely started.
Yeah.
Well, that gives a lot of thought to some of your early life. Something else I thought was unique. You were in the Scouts.
Yeah. So it goes back to my grandpa. I was a Boy Scout. So where I grew up, it was just the thing you did.
Yep.
And you learned, I mean, think of the training you have, like starting at a young age, how to lead a meeting, how to conduct a meeting. I remember my scoutmaster was a great guy named Larry Thorpe. He was a military guy before, and he would teach you about reverence for the flag and America and what it meant and about work ethic and just really wonderful things. So, you know, for me, it was always easy because I loved it, and you get merit badges, and I wanted to be an Eagle Scout. A little story that I don't tell very often, but I've got an uncle who was a war hero. He was a pilot, and he was my grandmother's brother. His name was Darrell Farmer, and he flew in the Air Force. And I remember as a little boy, and I don't even know how old I was, when I found his medals from my grandma had his medals. And in there was his Eagle Scout award. And I remember looking at, and I have it now. She gave it to me. But I remember holding that in my hand and thinking, I'm going to be an Eagle Scout. So you need 21 merit badges to become an Eagle Scout. And so I did that by the time I was 13. Grew up right next to my uncle, Josh, who was a year younger than me. And I remember the day we sat with my grandpa and said, hey, let's get every single merit badge. There are 121 of them. Now, normally, I remember when my son said that to me, and I'm like, hey, you don't know what that means. That's like, that's 100 more than you need, and we don't have enough time. But you know what? He looked at us and said, that's the greatest idea I've ever heard. Let's go for it. And we sat, and it took us about 3 years, but we earned every single merit badge there was together. So it was my Uncle Josh, me,
Cool.
and my grandpa.
Wow.
And and I think about the tremendous experiences we had of beekeeping and, learning, how to run the railroad merit badge and there was one called handicap awareness. And I remember I had to go volunteer in an old, and it was a nursing home for people with disabilities. And the person that I got assigned to go be with her name was Queenie, was her nickname. And as a young boy going in and spending time with her, and I remember the bugling merit badge. I had to learn how to bugle.
Wow.
And that was painful for everyone. But at the end of this, I love talking about that because it was super hard, but it wasn't hard because we were doing it together. And then we got to go meet the governor. We were nominated to go meet the president of the United States at the time, and we lost out to some other scout. I don't know what they did.
Yeah.
But we got to meet the governor, and it was just a great experience for me. But more than that, it was this idea you can do anything. Like put your mind to it, do it. Never know. It's like, set those dreams as high as you can. Yeah. Make sure you're not artificially limiting yourself, and then go do it. It was hard.
Yep.
But it was just fantastic. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, and part of why I love these early stories too is, back to what you said, even now reflecting back on what are the things that make us who we are, and things like that. I mean, the hardworking farm life to then this accomplishment of overdoing yourself on earning every single badge that exists, even though it's very difficult. So many people look at things like that and they're like, that's going to be too much work.
Yeah.
But that's the foundation, I think, for building someone who becomes a builder, an entrepreneur, someone who has faced challenges and doesn't look at them as obstacles, looks at them as opportunities for growth and for accomplishing something.
Well, and if you think about it, I tend to, as I get older now, talk to people about setting goals and how do you accomplish them. I use this a lot, but if you want to become something, right? Try being what you want to become every day, and over time you'll become that thing, right? And you need some early wins, but the sooner we can get over in our mind and our heart that we can do anything, and all of a sudden you start doing those things, you're like, I can't do anything.
Yep.
And you also learn early that it's not a direct path often to what we're going to accomplish. It comes with twists and turns and surprises. Yeah. But the joy is in the journey, Matthew. Yeah. It just is. Yeah. And you learn that, the earlier you learn that in life, that, hey, it was the journey of getting there, and it will be the journey in getting there.
Yep.
And how do you live life with gratitude and arrows out as you do that? For me, I've been around a lot of people in a lot of different aspects of life, medicine, business, politics, and they're great people, but it's really those few that have found that it is living life, arrows out, gratitude, how do I help others, and finding joy in the journey that are truly the happiest.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of people who live arrows in when it's about them, and you can tell pretty early on.
Yep.
And they're usually not happy. They usually don't, they fake it, but they're not happy, and you can learn from them too.
Yep.
And then we grow and we learn and we figure it out for ourselves how we want to be, right?
Yep. I think another piece I don't always talk about, but especially if it gets brought up, you've mentioned faith and I'm a believer and I try not to push that on people in conversations or podcasts or community, but at the same time, when it comes up, definitely willing to share it with people, because as people come to me and ask, like, why do you do what you do, or why do you work so hard, or how can, like, purpose and your belief of what is bigger than just the job you're doing, right, ends up being what fuels or feeds or I think it's such an important topic for people to reflect on before they ever try to go build something or become a businessman or entrepreneur. You see a lot of people that find their way to success and money in a path, but when purpose or a bigger mission is not aligned, you see that they get there and then they thought that's what they wanted. You know, and you see this a lot, not to point out any individuals, but you see it a lot with athletes and entertainment industry where they're like, I thought all I wanted was to become rich and famous, you know. Then they get there and they have all this money. There's nothing else that they could even want. They've done it all, and then they burn out from it and they spend all their money, or some of them, you know, even go down the path of depression or taking their own life. And you look at people and you're like, you had everything in the world's eyes. You know,
yeah. As I listen to you, I've thought a lot about this, because I think you're around people that are respective of other people's beliefs, whether they believe in God or not, or whether they're Christian or Buddhist or Muslim or whatever they believe in. I think there's a way to respect beliefs, but also share what you believe, and not in a threatening way. And then the second part I'd say is, I think of my life, and faith is that you believe God's there, but you haven't seen him. Faith in Jesus Christ, believe he's my Savior and Redeemer. But I don't know that, but I can't imagine living my life without a higher purpose, first of all. I mean, something bigger than me that drives me in a way. And then the second part of it, I try every day, and I'm better when I do it, when I try to have the perfect day, and I include some spirituality in the start of my day. And I share that with my friends. And I know that many of us that do that, we try to start each day, not just kind of trying to be physically fit and mentally getting our mind where it needs to be and living life with gratitude and being kind, but also there was no better example of that for me than Jesus Christ. And if I can study a little bit about him and try to emulate him, it sure feels good. So when you get attacked and like, why are you? Well, it's a great way to live. It keeps me happy. It provides joy and purpose in my life. It's a heck of a way to drive yourself to be better. Yeah. When you have something to look up to that is bigger than you and better than you. And it also, as men, I think a lot of times you're not trained. You know, the natural man is not supposed to be soft and kind and caring and Christ-like, right? It's the other. So I think I really do believe this. I think men more than anything need to. I've got friends of mine that I tell them I love them all the time. I call and check on them. They call me when they're going through stuff. I just had a friend from college. He was actually one of my teammates, and he reached out to me last week. And I'll tell you the story just because I love this. He was going through some really tough stuff right now, really tough. And I could have just quickly blown it off, but I sent him a big canvas painting that he's going to get sometime this week. Oh, cool. And I'm going to check back on him, and I'm going to follow up with him. He needs to feel loved. Yeah. And if I can be that for him right now, there's nothing better in life than that. Yep. Than having true friendship and fellowship. Yep. But those things matter. And at the end of it, money doesn't matter. The things we have don't matter. It's going to be the relationships we have. It's going to be the people we take care of and how we treated them. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you sharing there and some of your perspective. And as we kind of walk through, I want to hit some of the other points of your journey. So medicine and working in the ER. So tell us how you got into. Yeah. So I talk too much, too many stories, but I grew up in this little teeny community, and we had a little corner doc. It was Dr. Knowles. He was morbidly obese, big guy, bald guy, jolly guy. And he had his pockets stuffed with lollipops. And that's who we'd go see as our family doctor. And I remember as a kid thinking, wait a minute, that guy gets to go take care of people. He gets to walk in a room and say, hey, how can I help you? And he just helps people all day long. And that's his job, and he gets paid for it. And I thought, I want to do that. So I remember talking to my parents, my grandpa about it and saying, hey, I want to be a doctor. Now, I can only imagine what they were thinking when no one even went to school. And instead of saying, well, how are you going to do it? You're not going to be able to afford it. And you need to have, it's really hard. And you don't even know anybody that can help you write letters or whatever. But instead they said, that's awesome. Go for it. You can absolutely do it. So I never second guessed it ever. But that was the inspiration. And then I just thought I was going to do it, but I didn't know how. I knew I didn't have any money. I knew I knew I had one shot, and that was to get in the University of Utah, because it was the tuition was about 1/10 of it was anywhere else I went. So I went on a mission for my church to Brazil for 2 years, and I came home, and it's a great story because before the internet, you couldn't look stuff up.
Yeah.
So I remember getting home, and I needed to get a job. So I went to Primary Children's Hospital, and I remember going to you'd go into the board because they didn't, you guys don't even remember this because you're so young, but I'd go in and they would post jobs on a board. And I remember standing in the old hospital and looking at the board and thinking, okay, what's one that does not need no pre-required experience? I found one, and it was a phlebotomist. This is a true story. I didn't know what the word meant. So back in the day when you didn't know what a word meant, you had to literally go find a dictionary and look it up. So I applied for the job, went and looked up what a phlebotomist was, and I'm like, oh, they draw blood. And I got the job. And it introduced me to, it's a way too long of a story, but I found some of my best mentors in my life that I just hung out with. I'll tell you one other story. I didn't know anyone. I knew I needed letters to get into medical school. So here I'm a phlebotomist in the ICCU, and I didn't know anybody. And I knew this one doctor. His name was Bill Banner, and he was the stud. He was the guy that everyone went to, and I knew he was on the board of the medical school. I knew he was super influential. And I thought, I wonder if I could get him to say hi to me. So I remember on my downtime when I was drawing blood, because I was going to school and I would study, I would hang out in the ICCU where he would come in, because I thought, man, if Bill Banner would say hi to me, maybe I can talk to him. And he did. I remember one time he says, hey, what are you doing? And I remember talking to him and I'm thinking, now's my chance.
Yeah.
So I developed this friendship with him. He offers me a job in his research lab.
Wow.
And this guy, who I'm still friends with today, he was one of the legends of toxicology, of pediatric toxicology in the country, became my mentor early on because, and I remember going into his office and saying, hey, Bill, Dr. Banner, I don't know anybody. I'm trying to get into medical school. Will you be my mentor? And the guy took me under his wing, and I swear the whole thing was because of that. Now, I use that story a lot because now, could I have got in without a mentor? Maybe. Was it bold? Probably. But Bill Banner became my mentor and is still my friend today.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. That is and I want you to keep going, but I also wanted to say at that point, because it's a through line that many successful people share, is at some point there's these milestones where you think of this idea that's like, it's outrageous. Yeah. It's this high level guy. You're just this student. You don't know that you could, but it's you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Or if you don't, sometimes all you have to do is literally ask or take the step, and people want to help people.
People want to help people. People love mentoring, and they especially love someone that's genuine, authentic, that wants to learn and grow. It's amazing. And almost everywhere I talk now, I ask people. I just talked to BSU last week, and I said, hey, raise your hand if you have a mentor, a formal mentor you've asked to mentor you, and then raise your hand if you're mentoring someone else. This idea of formally asking someone to mentor you, I still have mentors now that are my formal mentors that I meet with routinely, and I go in with a list of questions and I say, hey, help me with this. It's a huge principle, but he was the guy that got me going. I don't think I could have navigated that and got into medical school, loved it. And then I chose emergency medicine. It was interesting because Bill Banner, he got me into this pediatric blue chip program because I wanted to be a pediatrician. And the problem with pediatrics is you don't make any money. So they had this program where they would surround you with people to keep you in pediatrics so that by the end of medical school, you didn't choose a more lucrative residency. So it's a funny story because I get assigned Jeff Shunk. He's an emergency room doctor at Primary Children's Hospital. So he was a pediatrician, but also an emergency room doctor. And I go meet with him the first time. And the very first time I meet with him, he's like, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to do something in pediatrics. I'm not sure yet. And he's like, well, do you like emergency medicine? I said, I think I will. I'm going to learn. He's like, talks me out of being a pediatrician like the first time I meet with him. He's like, you need to do emergency medicine. So that's after I spent time with him and did some research with him. ER fit me perfectly because it's fun. It's challenging. I did my residency down in Arizona. Another great mentors down there. But medicine, I get a lot of people ask me about how it's changed. Get a lot of people ask me about, hey, is it worth the grind? But if you really want to help people and sit there in a chair, someone comes into you at the time of their greatest need, whatever that may be, and ask you for help, and then you get to help them. There's nothing better than medicine.
Yeah.
There's really not.
Yeah, I got to experience that a little bit after my car accident I had when I was 16. My head-on collision, air flight to hospital. I ended up having 13 surgeries from that. And I got very, very familiar faces in the ER.
Yeah.
And lots of respect for the people that work in there, because I can only imagine, at least with what I saw in a short time, that you deal with a lot of trauma and a lot of unique cases and scenarios. And
it's amazing. It's where people come. It's where they die.
Yeah.
It's where they get diagnosed with cancer or heart disease or really, really bad things. And it's very vulnerable. People are looking to connect with someone and have someone listen to them. And then you have all the social issues, right? All the social issues of our time, people end up in the ER, right? And so I think it is the trench. It's the safety net, and I just loved it. I never thought I would leave. I really never, ever thought. I thought I could always keep my one foot in the door on that. As I had more businesses, and there was a time when it just was too much. And I had to give it up. But love it. And
well, what would you say, as we keep moving in the story, what were some of the biggest takeaways from your time in ER as you then transitioned out into your next step? What were some of your biggest takeaways?
So I actually never been asked some of these questions, but it's an easy answer. I played basketball. I loved team sports growing up, baseball and football. And in a team sport, you kind of all have your own position. And I know there's a lot of analogies people have used to sports. But I believe that emergency medicine is probably the pinnacle of team sports. You have some of the hardest things that you'll ever deal with that oftentimes end in death and tragic situations coming through the door. You never know when. You're balancing really hard things that people are in the waiting room for, but they don't know that there's ambulances coming in. So there's a lot of emotional, people are, their problem's their biggest problem. So there's a lot of pressure. And when I first got into it, it was the physicians that could build a team that you respected everyone, and everyone's position was not any more important than the next.
Yeah.
If you didn't listen to your nurses, who most of the time knew way more than you did, they'd been around longer, and there were some arrogant doctors that just wouldn't listen. All the way down to your nurse assistants, the front desk people, the radiology techs, the phlebotomists, the whole team. Because you needed them all. And I did night shifts for 10 years, and there was nothing like coming in and just like, I love it. You'd walk in, the waiting room was packed. The list of people waiting was a mile long, and then you and your team would kind of approach all those problems, clear it all out. And by 3 or 4 in the morning, there was calm and the chaos was done, and you'd help people, and you'd go home and come back and do it the next night. I loved the pace of it. It taught me how to interact with people. It taught me how to read people. You go walk into a room and oftentimes it's like, how can I help you tonight? It took a while to understand why they were really there. You learn a lot about how you don't want to be. I used to tell people I judge doctors on what they were like when I called them at 2 a.m. You find out what kind of people they are when you call them and say, hey, I've got one of your patients here who's a cancer patient who just got diagnosed today, and they're here and they need this. And you find out a lot about people that way. It was a tremendous experience. I loved every minute of it.
It's crazy the good that can come from such difficult work too, right? Like, I can't imagine being in that seat, and I'm sure most people can't until they're in it, where you have to deal with those scenarios of people in their worst, their worst state.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about, I also loved I can say this with my hand to the square. I never one time knew anyone's ability to pay, their insurance status. I made it a point to treat every person like they were a son or daughter of someone that they loved. And I'd go in and try to do my very best to not get jaded or cynical and just help people. because there's a lot of that in this world. And I think that just staying connected, like humanity was so important. And I learned that that's hard to do when you're in a challenging thing. And especially you'd have drug seekers or people there for a secondary gain or whatever. And you just treated them all with love and respect and tried to help them the best you could and do it the next day. It was tremendous learning experience of how to refine your skills as a human.
I can imagine. Wow. Well, it sounds like the kinds of doctors we hope are in the hospital when we need them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So take us on the transition a little bit. What was it like deciding to get out of and
So again, never was an intention to do it. I started a company called Stat Pads in 2001. And at the time, automated external defibrillators were new. And I had a case in the ER here at St. Luke's, right across the street here from us, where we are. Guy came in that was on a golf course and died of a heart attack. We tried to resuscitate him, and they had an AED at the golf course but didn't use it. And that sparked the entrepreneurial side of me thinking, and I really dug in, why didn't someone use it? These were new. For every minute you're down without being defibrillated, your chances of survival goes down by 10%. So you think of just standard EMS response times, and those numbers are dropping. So these AEDs really save lives. And I thought, boy, if we started a company that helped people deploy these, not making the devices or not selling devices, but if we could add on a service that made it more likely to use these devices, it would be a tremendous blessing for people, and it also could be a great business idea. So we started a company called Stat Pads, and long story, it was great. I mean, it was a crazy ride when we sold it. We had 65,000 AEDs that were under our umbrella across the country. Wow. But I had that going on. I started doing real estate. I had a family with 4 kids. And so I thought, I'm just going to go part-time. That was the whole idea. And I started doing 24-hour shifts in Weiser, Idaho, which I loved, Weiser Memorial. So I'd go out on a Friday morning at 7 a.m. and I'd go home Saturday morning at 7 a.m. And I loved it. I just thought I'd do this forever. But emergency medicine is also, it's where a lot of lawsuits happen. It just is. All you need is something to go wrong. And I went part-time for about 2.5 years, and I was doing all my other stuff, and it was kind of booming and taking off, still no intention to leave. And in one night, I went down, I covered a shift for one of my partners downtown Boise, and I walked into the doctor lounge, and I ran into 2 of my partners that had just been sued that day. One of them was a nurse, midwife, delivered a baby at a home, and the baby essentially came in dead. And because they sue the person with the most to lose, they sued the hospital and the ER doc. And he was just all torn up about it. And then the same night, one of my other partners was sued for a chest pain. And they were just distraught. And I just sat there thinking, I don't know that I can do this anymore. I was already starting to practice a little defensively and worry about, okay, now I've got more assets. I'm doing this part-time. And I felt like I was hanging out there a bit. So I stopped seeing patients in the ER full-time. But since then, I owned urgent cares and I worked a few shifts there. We bought Salzer Health, which is a whole other story. Sold it 2 years later at Intermountain. I've got a clinic right now that I run down in Southeast Boise called Summit Hyperbarics and Wellness, where we do hyperbaric dives for veterans with traumatic brain injury, and it's been an incredible blessing. That's in partnership with Joe Scott and his family and the Albertsons Foundation. Does a tremendous amount of good. So I still am pretty attached to medicine, and have been and always will be. Yeah,
that's great. So it kind of just became a phasing out due to few little. Getting your hands in a lot of business, and ultimately, you've just been doing a lot.
I mean, it's just there's no shortage of a lot.
And why not also run for governor?
Yeah, that was a little crazy. I don't know that I'd do that again, Matthew. I would do it again. It was a tremendous experience, but
well, since I don't know exactly time frame wise, when did you stop medical practice and?
So I stopped medical practice in about 2016.
Okay, and then you ran for governor.
And then I ran for governor, and that's about when I started. I took kind of 2 years off and just really traveled the whole state and lost. I took third. I like to remind people I took third in 2018.
What made you run?
So there were a few things. I could see the way healthcare was going and how we pay for healthcare, and it really bothered me. That was one. 2, education, K-12, higher education. I thought there's some things that we could really do to fix that and help that. And then 3rd was infrastructure. As we grow, how do we pay for things? And I thought, man, if I could get in there with my business mind, with my healthcare background, and passionate about education, I think I could really make a difference.
Yeah.
And so naively, I just, this goes back to how I was brought up.
Yeah.
I had a dream.
Just do it.
I thought you just do it. You just jump in with both feet. So I did. I jumped in with both feet and really went hard at it. And I made, I don't think I was very good at it. I think in order to win something like that, you have to really probably check the boxes and play the game for 4 or 5 years and then do it.
Sure.
But I had my whole family praying I'd lose, and I did.
They prayed hard.
They prayed hard that I'd lose, but it was a tremendous experience. I really enjoyed the people I met and made lifelong friends within politics.
Yeah,
and I've stayed pretty dang involved since then because I think you can make a big difference on the outside too, and I think we still are. We're still very involved in local elections and statewide elections, and it's an important part of my life. But crazy experience.
Yeah, I bet. I can imagine. But you wouldn't run again.
I think for the first few years afterwards, everyone was like, "You're going to do it again. You're going to do it again." Once you catch the bug, I'm just okay not running. Okay. I'm okay not. Yeah. Not going to do it again.
Yeah, and I like your point though of people can make a lot of impact without having to be in an official role either. Even, and this is something I talk about a lot with people in our industry who just see the influence that I've built with building a podcast and building a community and putting on this conference. You can build a voice that makes an impact, whether in a local community or a global community, with efforts regardless of an official title or position. And I think you've very much continued to do so locally in multiple ways.
Amen to that. I mean, if someone would have said, "Hey, Matthew Bird, here's your deal. Go do this," you'd go, "You're going to do what?"
Yeah.
And now you probably look back and it's incredible what can be accomplished with a vision and a dream and hard work, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So now you're doing lots of development. That's probably your biggest focus you shared.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of development. What happens over time too is you build a team, right? And I get a lot of credit, but I've got some of the most incredible partners.
Yep.
These guys are just killers. They're just they have a drive and work ethic and presence that is just unbelievable. So you really have this entire team behind you. And these are the guys you would die in a trench with.
Yep.
I mean, that's the kind of guys. They're more than friends. They're more than partners. They're your ride or dies.
Yeah.
And I've got those guys at my company, and we just do great things together. It's fun.
Yeah.
So I get asked all the time, well, what's next, or when are you going to retire? And I look at them like, why would you do anything but what we're doing? I mean, it really feels like every day when I go to work, I'm with my best friends doing great things.
Yeah.
And in development, I also am spoiled because we call it going from dirt to done. So you take a piece of property that you have a vision what it could be. And by the way, it's got to make money, right? So it's not just, I want to go do something here because it would be cool. It's like, I want to go do something there that's going to be cool, and I want to make money doing it, right?
Yeah.
And so you take something like where Top Golf is across from us, like that took me, I tried for 15 years to put that project together.
Really?
And then when it came together, it was the right time and the right partners. It was really because of the CEO of Idaho Central Credit Union, Kent Orem. It's a funny story because I had it under contract twice. And it's a long story why it failed, but in development, you just can't take that personally. You're just like, not this time. I'm just going to keep going. You just keep driving. And then he called me. I was driving on the freeway. He's like, "Hey, are you sitting down?" I said, "Yeah, I'm driving my car." He's like, "I just bought that corner, but I need your help." And so it all came together. But then when you're done, my point is I look at that project. I look at the Zions Bank building downtown that was the Boise Hole.
Yep.
I look across the street at City Center Plaza where the bus station is. All of that was an idea in my head and my team's head. and then you go put the whole thing together. And at the end of it, you look back and those things don't go away. At least in our lifetime.
Yeah.
They're part of a community. That feels good. It feels good to feel like you're doing things that make a difference, where people can work and enjoy and play and their families come. It's very, very, very rewarding. It's very challenging. I like that about it, but I feel very spoiled for what I get to do right now. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, that is incredible, and some incredible projects you've got to bring to life over the years. I'm curious your take a little bit just on the local growth and development.
Yeah.
And you've seen a lot of change. And there's a lot of people that are hesitant to the change. A lot of people love the change. What's some of your take, on that?
Yeah. First of all, I understand people not wanting change, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting old enough now. When you go back and look at all the boards I served on, we were not keeping our kids here. 20 years ago, everyone was talking about, how do we keep Idaho kids in Idaho? How can we create jobs that they can stay here? How do we create an economy where vibrant families can stay here and come back, right? That was the discussion around everything. So if I had to pick what we have, I'd pick this.
Yeah.
Because we live in an amazing, vibrant community where there's growth like crazy. I get why people want to turn it off. It's not I laugh at people. Especially the people that have been here for 5 years that now want to shut it off. It's like there's nothing more. There's hypocrisy, and then there's that, right? But we're going to have challenges, but it's not stopping. We live in the greatest country in the history of the planet Earth.
Yep.
I mean, this country that allows me to do what I've done with my life and you to do what you've done with your life. The idea that we're free, and that if we work hard and we're smart and we marshal all of our energies and resources towards a vision and dream, that can come true. That is so unique to America.
Yeah.
So I love that. And then you take the state of Idaho, right? I believe the heritage of Idaho is work. And spending 2 years driving around the state, it is work. We have a heritage and a people that just know how to work and how to get things done, how to take care of each other, be kind, and they really care about community. So we don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
At the same time, that the principles that are making this a great place to be are the principles why people are coming here.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned that you're going down to California next week. I mean, I spend a lot of time traveling, and I come home, and there's a reason people are moving here.
Oh, yeah.
Now you add to it the people and the place and the economy, and then you add the outdoors experiences that are here, the things where we started this podcast.
Yep.
There is no more beautiful place on the planet than, most people have not explored the Oahe Mountains.
Oh, yeah.
Or eastern Idaho, all the way up to Jackson, or you go through the Sawtooth and Stanley, and then you go up to northern Idaho, all the way up to the border.
Yep.
You look at what we have here, it's unbelievable. And then you say, well, why are people coming here? Well, they're not stopping.
Yep.
So in the middle of that, I think those of us that develop, we have a stewardship to try to do it in the right way, to do infill developments, to do high quality developments that add to our quality of life, and to try to do it in a way that we can be sustainable and have our family stay here and live here. There are, we could spend hours talking about the challenges that are facing us for that, but I understand why people don't want growth, but I also know what's here, and hopefully we can come together as a community and do it the right way and figure out some of our biggest problems together.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, those are some great sentiments toward the growth, and lots I could agree with and keep talking there. But I'm curious, before we move on from the development conversation, with the growth and with the fact you look at projects that sometimes take 10, 20, 30 years, are there any big things that you see Idaho and this valley needing that isn't here yet, or what are some of the big developments you think we'll see in the coming 10, 20 years?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm going to talk about Micron, because before Micron announced the first fab, if you took the value, so when you submit a building permit for a building, this building we're in, you submit it and you put down what the value of the building is going to be, right? And that's part of your application. That's how your fees are calculated. if you took the value of all of the projects that came through the city of Boise in 10 years, it was $10 billion over 10 years. Micron's doing $50 billion worth of construction.
That's wild.
It's wild. There are 250 companies coming here to support that fab.
Yeah.
And the first fab, second fab. So I honestly don't think any of us, me included, understand the full impact of that investment in our community, both the positives and the challenges that will come because of it. So you look at our resources, you look at water, power, roads, everything that's going to be strained, but you look at the opportunity if done right?
Yeah.
So you go around the country and you talk to all these communities that don't have that kind of investment or something like that going on. I think there's going to be a tremendous opportunity in almost all sectors of our market.
Yeah.
Because we're going to need more starter homes. We're going to need more townhomes. We're going to need more condos. We're going to need more apartments. We're going to need more industrial space. We're going to need more office.
Yeah.
So for the development side, all of that's coming. And then we're going to need more retail, places for people to be entertained and raise their families. So for what I do, and probably for what you do, being in a vibrant community that's growing, there's probably not much better than that. Again, understanding that it doesn't come without its challenges.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. That is quite the project.
Yeah.
Not every city has a Micron-sized development going on. Well, I want to be respectful of time and start heading toward narrowing. I still had a few topics I wanted to hit on. If you don't mind hitting on this, you yourself went through some medical scenarios, correct?
I did.
Did you share?
Yeah, I was clipping along, and probably took advantage of health. I always had it. I came up with a saying early on in the ER for my team: you can't join our team if you don't have kerosene in your veins. And what it meant was, you're going to run hot, we're going to burn hot, because that's the way we do it, right? And it became our motto of our company. I mean, you look at our company, kerosene's all over the thing. And then I started having chest pain, and it was very atypical pain. And I went to my doctor, and she's like, "Well, it's not heart pain because it's so atypical." And then it just kept getting worse and exertional. And so I went in and had a angiogram, and I had the Widowmaker, 95% occlusion of my LAD, like the thing that kills you. But worse than that, they stented that, and then they found a congenital abnormality of my coronary arteries that's 100% fatal if not fixed. So I'm very lucky that I had the problem, or I wouldn't have found it and I would have plopped over dead. But I went and got that fixed. It was my best friend from medical school that actually fixed me down in Utah, which is a whole nother great story. But Matthew, the first time I had that, I just didn't think I was going to die. So I don't know why, because it's a giant surgery.
Yeah.
People asked me, "Are you worried?" And I just said, "No, I'm not worried." This was 5 years ago. And I didn't think I was going to die. I just didn't. I mean, I honestly went through it very calm, overconfident, just thought it's, everyone's very, very worried about me. But the year after, I had a heart attack in McCall, and I think it was related to the vaccine from COVID. But I was in McCall getting my horses out of a trailer and had classic chest pain, went to the ER in McCall, walked in where I had worked, interestingly enough, walked in as an ER doc and said, I'm having the big one. And they said, "Hey, here's some paperwork, go." I said, I don't think you understand. And I was having a big, massive heart attack. I got life flighted down to St. Luke's, and this time I thought I was gone. Working there as long as I did, I knew the medics that flew me in Air St. Luke's, and so I went to the airport. It was a peaceful, perfectly clear night, and I got in the helicopter, and I had the most peaceful flight. I didn't know where I was going to end up in Salt Lake or Boise because of what I had. And on the way down, I just had complete clarity that my life was over. And I was able to reflect in complete silence, just listening to the helicopter, looking out the window at this crystal clear, beautiful night, like looking up at the stars, thinking, this is it. This is when I find out what's next. And I remember starting with my wife and what I had told her that morning and how my relationship was with her. I went through each of my 4 kids. My first grandson had just been born. I thought about my partners at work. I thought about what I had accomplished and what I hadn't accomplished. And I got to tell you, I thought, this is it. And it was a wonderful, wonderful life. And for me, it was peaceful. And I was ready. I mean, I was ready to go see what was next. And I remember waking up, it was during COVID in the ICCU. And I keep saying ICU. And I remember looking around for a logo to see if I was in Utah with my buddy or whether I was at St. Luke's. And I saw the St. Luke's logo, but all the nurses were in their astronaut suits, like coming around. And I remember the first time I could talk, I said to the nurse, am I okay? I was asking her if I was alive, right? And she says, yeah, you did well and you're going to be okay. So it's now flash forward, I'm way more contemplative now. I'm way more thoughtful. I do live, it's changed me. The first time didn't, the second time did. And I'm much more free about talking about love and God and stuff. I just am more, I'm still going as hard, but I just think I have a little bit different perspective on this thing. It doesn't last forever. And I do consider every day a gift, and I want to do better, be better, and grow. I want to not stop progressing until there is that time when none of us outrun this thing. And I'm way more. I would tell you this: I always was goal driven, man. If you look at we just went through a new year, and I would always write down all my goals and what I was going to do and all aspects of my life. It would be interesting for me to go do a study over what it was like before this experience and after, because I'm still goal oriented, but it's flipped on its head. Relationship with God, spiritually, physically, have taken the lead, and then business. It's still there and it's still important. But for me, it's how do I be a better person? How do I take better care of my body? And how do I go take better care of people? And then how do I do this stuff? And before, if you look at my goals, it was flipped. It was all of this stuff, and then I'm going to go do this.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing. It's something that many people don't have an experience in their life where they, feel like they meet the end. And it very much does change you, and it can be a very positive thing. I hear people talk about, I heard a guy talk about there's this subscription you can get where you get daily text reminders about death. and some people are like, that's ridiculous, But at the same time, when you really get to that point, you realize what really mattered, right? What did I spend my time doing? What were my goals? What were my priorities? And will I get to the end and have regrets of how I spent that time, or will I be happy with it? And so often we can just get tunnel vision sometimes toward the thing we're working on. And I think that reminder of none of this lasts, when your time's up, what really mattered, and having those priorities, I think are important. And it's a blessing to have gone through something that wakes you up to that. Even though it's difficult, it's scary,
I get asked all the time about balance, considering this, and how do you do this? And I had another good friend, one of my mentors, kind of explain this to me. I think as you go through life, the demands on your time, if I look at Matthew Bird right now and what you're doing, your time is probably, you're at the peak, right? This career thing is just dominant for you. And so I like the pass this gives you. If you can at nighttime and in morning in your alone time can say, did I prioritize things right? It's a better way to look at it, like heart, mind, soul. Am I prioritizing the things that are most important? More so than time. Because I think that's a better way to give ourselves a pass. And I do think as you go through these I look at my son-in-law right now, I told you our grandkids are living with us right now for a couple months. He is in a really, really busy time of his life. Business owner, he's working so hard, and he's got these 3 little kids that are just nonstop. Like if he probably should be around more hours in the day, but it's just not possible. But I also think I watch what he does in the morning. I watch what he does at night. I watch how he interacts with them. And I'm thinking that guy can look in the mirror and say, my priorities are square in line with where they should be. Even though my time constraints right now are really bad. And that gives you a pass to say, hey, I'm doing the right thing, right?
Totally.
if you ever said balance is time, it's not going to work, and you're just going to feel guilty But somehow being in harmony, I think I call it, with your priorities, and it takes a gut check because you expend all your energy at work, and you come home, you got to leave enough there so you've got that real quality interaction, and you're listening to your kids. But it can be done, and I think that we need to be kind to ourselves too, and know that God forgives us, and God lets us know that we have weaknesses. We need to do the same thing with ourselves over time, and just always do those gut checks.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is a lot. I love those conversations. Everybody asks about the work-life balance.
Yeah.
I say something similar to, it is hard and there is no perfect balance. It's being 100% present with whatever it is at that time.
Yep.
Yes, if you've fallen into business ownership, entrepreneurship, you don't get to just, no, I'm only going to work 8 hours and have this very nice balanced life. No, you've chosen a path that requires more work, but sacrifice, maybe your own personal fun for you're not watching TV at home when you get home. You're with your kids, or you're with your family, or it is that balance of where your effort is. It's definitely not the time balance. I have 5 kids at home, so I feel the same thing.
You have 5, right? Another thing I'll say is I had if you think about who my partners growing up are going through this whole business thing were ER docs, right? So I think of some of them, and there's some of them were very happy were doing shift work, and some of them were miserable doing shift work. But if you think, a lot of them golfed, a lot of them fished, a lot of them did all this other stuff. I probably spent as much time with my family as they did.
Yeah.
Now, they were on golf trips and I was running businesses, but it also gave me comfort saying it is about priorities.
Yeah.
And maybe I didn't have a handicap that was 2, but I had kids that I was raising.
Yep.
So it's good advice for young entrepreneurs to say, just do the gut check.
Yeah.
Do what you do in the morning to get yourself right. Live arrows out, but you can do it.
Yep. All right. We're gonna start wrapping up.
Okay.
Last few questions. Let's just keep these more kind of quick fire questions. Is there a belief you had in your 20s that you do not have now?
Yes.
What?
This thing doesn't last forever.
Yep. That's a good one.
This thing doesn't last forever.
How about the best decision you made in your 30s?
Picking the right partners.
That's a big one. Out of all the projects you've worked on or helped run, what's your project you're most proud of?
I always say my last one because it's it's the one with my most recent relationships. But for me, it's got to be the Zions Bank building. That was it was the Boise hole.
Yep.
It had its own Twitter account, for sure. That thing, I still go down there. I had dinner down there this week at Ruth's Chris. And I walk in there. If you ever go in there, I look in the lobby. There's the lion head that I found in the hole and saved and put it in the lion. If you go on the second floor, I took rebar out of the hole that was sitting there, and I had an artist make a phoenix. There's the board of the groundbreaking. It was such a special thing. It was when I was starting my career. So it's for sure Zions
That's very
Bank.
Cool. Out of you mentioned a lot of change that you've had with some of the things you've gone through. What's one habit that you refuse to compromise on?
My mornings. I consider it like from the time that alarm goes off till the time I get through with my morning routine with my animals and my dogs. That is sacred time for me. And I'm finding I wish 10 years ago I would have kept that sacred. I would have been in better health. I would have been better spiritually and mentally where I needed to be. And now it is just, that's my time.
Yeah. When you were going through, you talked about quite a few mentors and stuff that you had along the way. Are there any pieces of advice that you were given that really stick out as like something that's come with you throughout your journey? A specific piece of advice you were given?
Yeah, I've had so many, but and I could think of each one of them, but I think almost always with business, I'm going to say business advice. It had to do with partners. It had to do with paying as much attention to breaking up or divorcing from a business when you put it together. Comments like the first time out's the best time out when you have a failure. Lots of them. I mean, you could go deep on all these, but I think those mentorship discussions, when you ask someone, what did you learn when you went through this, and you take those notes, you can't put value on that. It's just that wisdom is, you either learn it from someone else or you learn it the hard way.
Yeah. That's well, that's part of my goal with this podcast, right? You know, I tell people all the time, these conversations with different individuals and different backgrounds, that's the whole goal, right?
Yeah.
Is there are many people out there who have lived very difficult, successful. There's been ups and downs, and if we can learn pieces from them, we don't all have to make the same mistakes and the same successes, right?
That's right.
And I'm such a big believer in being a forever learner, whether it's through conversation or content or, watching videos or having, these one-off lunches with people. It's like, how can I learn from other people? That's the whole goal. Okay, 2 more questions, and we'll be done. If you had to just in a short answer, what do you want to be remembered for?
Well, what kind of a grandpa I was. That's my thing right now. Well, whatever's left from now till the end, man, I want it to be all about those kids.
Yeah, good. Then last one, and this might be a summary of the things you've already said, but if you just had 1 minute to share a message with someone who's earlier in their path, they're early in career, early in life, what would your one message be to that person?
Dream big, be authentic, find out what's inside here, and then just go after it. Be true to who you are, and enjoy that journey, man. When the struggles come, that's where you learn and grow, and just embrace it all. Live arrows out. Live with gratitude and kindness.
Love it. Well, thank you very much for coming in and sharing your
Matthew.
story.
It's been great.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's not as fun to be on this side of it, by the way. It's a lot more. I don't do this as often, so thank you and appreciate all you do.
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you.
I appreciate it. The reason I love this so much is we get to see people out there doing their thing, and we know this much about them. Yeah. And I feel like these deeper podcast conversations lets us all learn a little bit more, and I'm sure our audience will appreciate it. So thank you for sharing.
Thanks, Matthew.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.